In this video we will review blood supplies of the brain. Although the brain is responsible for only 2% of the body weight, 20% of oxygenated blood from the heart is transported to the brain. Blood reaches the brain through two pairs of arterial trunks, internal carotid and vertebral arteries. Each internal carotid artery is terminal branch of common carotid artery and enters the skull through the carotid canal. The caudal part of the brain, including cerebellum, receive blood through the vertebral arteries. Vertebral arteries enter the brain through hole called foramen magnum at the level of the cervical vertebra 1 to 6. The vertebral arteries of the two sides of the brain join and make basilar artery that branch to two posterior cerebral arteries at the level of the midbrain. There are two pairs of branches of vertebral artery. They are posterior inferior cerebellar artery that supply dorsolateral part of medulla, posterior and inferior cerebellum, and choroid plexus of the fourth ventricle. And there are two branches here from the vertebral artery that join and make anterior spinal artery that supply part of the medulla oblongata and spinal cord. Now we will identify major branches of basilar artery. Those are posterior cerebral artery, superior cerebellar artery, and anterior inferior cerebellar artery. Pair posterior cerebral arteries arise at the lateral aspect of the midbrain to reach occipital lobe of the cerebral hemispheres. They are connected with internal carotid artery through the posterior communicating arteries. Paired superior cerebellar arteries supply cortex, white matter, and deep nuclei of dorsal surface of cerebellum, superior collicula of the midbrain, and rostral pontine tegmentum. Paired anterior inferior cerebellar arteries arise from caudal end of the basilar artery and supply inferior surface of cerebellum, upper medulla, and tegmentum of lower pons. For your orientation, you can see third cranial nerve positioned between superior cerebellar artery and posterior cerebral artery. There are two major terminal branches of internal carotid artery: middle cerebral artery and anterior cerebral artery. They supply rostral part of the brain, including basal ganglia and internal capsule. Middle cerebral artery is largest branch of the internal carotid artery and runs between temporal and frontal lobe. It gives several branches that supply whole lateral surface of the cerebral hemisphere, including sensory and motor cortex. The second terminal branch is anterior cerebral artery, and two anterior cerebral arteries are connected by anterior communicating artery. Anterior cerebral artery runs rostrally between olfactory tract and supplies medial aspect of frontal and parietal lobe and corpus callosum. Now I will demonstrate circle of Willis. It consists of internal carotid artery, posterior cerebral artery, posterior communicating artery, anterior cerebral artery, and anterior communicating artery. The advantage of this circle is to have an alternative route for blood if any of major arteries are occluded. This concludes blood supplies of the brain demonstration.